Hello, welcome to James's pre-fight, post-fight MMA show, where we recap all the important things happening in the sport of MMA, and I, your host James, try to explain to you what's going on in the sport and make it as easy as 1, 2, 3 for you to understand. We hope you enjoy the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Fans Assemble. It's your host James, like usual. We're here to talk about UFC 281 taking place in Madison Square Garden between Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. A very stacked card, a lot to mention. Like before, we're going to break down the three main fights for you. The fights that we really feel like if somebody who doesn't know too much about MMA or somebody who's just trying to get a quick look at the sport and what's going on this weekend's fight, we're going to give you a quick breakdown, what to know about it, and maybe we'll mention a little bit of some other fights on the card and what to expect. So, like I said, it's your host, James, and if you've been a day one fan of the show, you always know this is a show that we've done consistently and very often, but unfortunately, my co-host, Mike, who keeps me in check very well, he's unable to make it. He is very busy working on some other stuff, so we just thought that Mike, his efforts should go into something else for now, but he will definitely be back very, very soon. Hopefully I could get his picks and insert a little voice memo describing why he picked that and who and things like that and method of victory. So, UFC 281, just a quick rundown. There's going to be Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles. That's an excellent fight. Frankie Edgar, he's having his last fight ever. He's going to be retiring after this fight. As a guy who's been always a constant supporter of Frankie Edgar, I am a little nervous for this fight with Chris Gutierrez. Gutierrez has good finishing ability with his kicks, but he also hasn't found anyone who's like a grappler at the level of Frankie Edgar. Prelims are very, very stacked. Brad Riddell versus Renato Moicano. That should be an amazing, amazing fight. Definitely, if you're not planning to buy the pay-per-view, definitely tune in by like 9:30, 20 to watch that one. Dominic Reyes, who his last fight was a main event. He's fighting on the prelims versus Ryan Superman Spann. That's an excellent fight as well. So, let's get into the three fights we're going to break down. So, we're going to break down first what I think is the most exciting fight and the closest fight at the most stacked division in the UFC, in my opinion, Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler. Then the co-main event, Carla Esparza versus Weili Zhang. And then the main event, very intriguing one, Israel Adesanya, the last stylebender, versus Alex Pereira. It's a rematch in a different sport, that one. So that should be very interesting to break. But first we're going to do lightweight title eliminator, I guess. Top 5 fight between number 1 ranked Dustin Poirier versus, I believe, number 2 ranked Dustin Poirier, and then number 4 ranked Michael Chandler. So, tail of the tape. Oh, look at this pretty graphic. Dustin Poirier is 28-7, 33 years old. He is 5'9", 72-inch reach. He's coming off of 1 loss. His last 3 is 2 wins and 1 loss. Those 2 wins coming against Conor McGregor. He also had a win over Dan Hooker before that. And then he was on an incredible win streak before his loss to Khabib, where he beat former champion Anthony Pettis, Justin Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez, Max Holloway. A lot of big names on his resume. And but he's coming off of that loss to the former champion Charles Oliveira, and happened back in December. So it's a very long layoff for Dustin Poirier, considering who he is. Some fighters, they don't fight that often, but he fights very, very often. So it is something to consider. His last fight was in December of 2021 against Charles Oliveira, where he lost via submission in round 3. So the layoff, something to look at. Also, Poirier, he's very well known for being active, so that is a part of his fight game, is his calmness, and because he fights so often. Michael Chandler is 23-7, 36 years old, with a 71-inch reach. His last 3 are 2 losses and 1 win. And he is the former Bellator lightweight champion, so that's something people underestimate about him. Is like, oh, he doesn't have a lot of UFC fights, but even Dustin Poirier admits that Michael Chandler, he does have the experience because he was a former champion in Bellator. Fought had big fights there. It wasn't like he was unbeatable. He definitely was beaten quite a few times against Will Brooks and lost to Patricio Pitbull, lost to Eddie Alvarez. It is something to watch out. Is also Michael Chandler. He does have one thing to note is these guys have won before. Dustin Poirier interim title when he won against Max Holloway, and then Michael Chandler Bellator title. Also, Michael Chandler is like a two-time NCAA Division I All-American wrestler, and it's something I think will play a part in this fight. And I think that kind of complicates this fight because when I look at the two of them, I look at it as one is 3-round fight. Two, Dustin Poirier hasn't fought in a long time, and a little bit. It will be a while. If it was a 5-round fight and Dustin Poirier is on his usual schedule, I think Dustin Poirier wins this fight. Because Michael Chandler, wherever he's wrestling or not wrestling, like if you don't know, he has like these gigantic knockout wins over like Dan Hooker, Tony Ferguson, even in Bellator over Patricio Pitbull. Very explosive with everything, like he showed against Tony. Like I've never seen him knock out anyone with a head kick before, and all of a sudden he just first time throwing the head kick against Tony Ferguson, bang, knocks him out. He's usually known for the hand, specifically his right hand. But look at the Dan Hooker fight. He shifts, like he misses the right hand, shifts into a left hook, and that's something Dustin Poirier is gonna have to watch out for, especially since he hasn't been as active as he usually is. And then plus you have the wrestling of Michael Chandler. Like Poirier is not a bad grappler at any means. I think he's very underrated in my opinion when it comes to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But and if it was a 5-round fight and Michael Chandler used his wrestling, then yeah, I could see Chandler, like his ground and pound's okay. Like he'll start ground and pounding in the beginning after he gets you down. But if you start to throw up stuff, he'll kind of just stop, throw up submissions, which Poirier has shown plenty of times to do before. And then Michael Chandler will put the opponent against the fence, hoping that they don't. That's what he did in Bellator. But he has to understand that in the UFC, it's a different level. Like everybody in the UFC uses the fence to get up. And Dustin Poirier is one of the fighters that are using the fence to up and get back to his feet. So that's the main problem for Michael. But in a 3-round fight, Michael Chandler, if he gets it down in time, he can burn the rounds. And then, like, he hasn't fought in a while, so the KO is always available for Michael Chandler. Maybe Dustin Poirier zigs when he should have zagged type of thing. But in a 5-round fight, I can see Poirier letting Michael Chandler be the ball at the beginning and then turning it up. But I just think in this fight, it's going to be difficult for him in the first in a 3-round fight because if he gets a takedown, time is running out. And if Poirier has to be aggressive and go after Michael Chandler, then he could get caught up in a big shot himself. That's why I think that it comes down to what is Poirier's game plan. I do think he should be the matador of this fight. And Michael Chandler, we've seen plenty of times, like, his striking, even though it's very good, it's very explosive, he's very precise. And he does have a little bit going on, like, with the hands. And, of course, he's shown, like, anything he throws is very, very explosive and hard. And he will get tired.
Sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody.
In Bellator or the UFC,
we're filming at different locations, so please bear
with us.
It was
hard. That's the only way he knows.
Like I said before,
that Poirier,
Dustin Poirier really
in a 5-round fight, he would let that.
He has different ways to combat these.
But in a 3-round fight,
where Michael Chandler decides to strike and knock him out the first round,
and I think it's very difficult
to wrestle, take him down, burn the clock perhaps, or he mixes it up. And because Poirier, he's so good at distance management. He's so good at counter-striking. So Michael decides to come forward and let his hands go. Especially Chandler, we've seen him be counter-striked by guys who typically aren't counter-strikers, like Charles Oliveira. And Poirier, even though he lost to Oliveira, he's definitely a better overall boxer than Charles Oliveira. And we've seen Poirier, he's counter-strikes with the best. And if Michael decides to wrestle, that I think would be the best way for Michael Chandler to win. Take him down, maybe fake strikes into takedowns, wear on him, and then try to burn the clock on him. That's what I think Michael Chandler would be able to do. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But like I said, Michael doesn't do a lot of ground and pound in the center of the cage. When guys start to throw up submissions, he'll take them to the fence, which I think is a mistake against Poirier, because Dustin Poirier is very good at getting up using the fence, and that's the worst thing. Worst case scenario for Michael Chandler is he's doing something, he's getting hit. He's doing something, he's getting tired. So there's some kind of resistance. He gets chipped away at the gas tank a little bit. And I think Poirier has many ways to combat both strategies. Plus, we've seen Michael Chandler have trouble with leg kicks before. So, in Dustin Poirier, he's very good at delivering them, as we've seen with the second Conor McGregor fight. So, and but for me, betting value wise, I think the value is probably on Michael Chandler. It's the 3-round fight for me. Betting, like I'm talking about betting. I'm not outright picking him, but the bet. I think the rounds. I think the wrestling, and I think the fact that Poirier, like there's writing on the wall, right? He hasn't fought since December. It's a 3-round fight. It's a wrestler. There's certain things going against him this fight. So that's what I think. You gotta watch out if you're Dustin Poirier, and that's why I think Michael Chandler has the good betting value. By far, this is the most intriguing fight on the card, and this is probably one of the closer fights on the card. Obviously, one guy can make it look like dominant than the other. Like Michael Chandler could just knock out Poirier, and all this stuff could end all with this talk, or he just take him down all 3 rounds, and he may struggle towards the end, but he will get it if he can. Or Dustin Poirier, he could be struggling in the beginning, and then all of a sudden he starts to expose Michael Chandler's defense, which is just him literally moving back. So that's what I think about this fight. It's very, very good fight. I feel like I'm trying to keep it short, but I feel like I'm missing a lot of stuff already. So that's my outlook in this fight. This very highly contested lightweight fight. So moving on to the co-main event, the strawweight title, Carla Esparza, Cookie Monster, Carla Esparza versus Weili Zhang. Magnum is her nickname, like the bullet. Carla Esparza is 19-6. She is 35 years old. She's 5'1", with a 63-inch reach. She's coming off a 5-fight win streak. Weili Zhang is 22-3, 33 years old, 5'4", with a 63-inch reach. And her last 2 have been, she's won 1 fight of her last 3. And she's a very, very decent big favorite. In terms of betting in this fight, I'll kind of stay away because Zhang is a huge favorite. And I'm not going to mix it up. I'm going to pick her to win. I just think that Esparza, she's just so she's like a 2-time UFC champion, right? And like I said with the last fight with Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler, when they fight, you're going to see that experience carry over, especially with Michael Chandler's ability to wrestle, mix it up, and then Dustin Poirier's ability to read the fight, ability to know what resources he has and doesn't have in the moment. But Carla Esparza, like her specialties it's strictly just wrestling. Like she's not even she's pretty good on top, but she's not like amazing on top. Like she's not like a wizard or anything. Like she's not like Kamaru Usman or Luke Rockhold or something. So yeah, it'll have to be for her to win this fight. It's gonna be her moving on the outside. She's very inactive from there usually. Weili Zhang is very comfortable. So moving on to the big fight, the main event, Israel, the last style bender Adesanya versus Alex Pereira for the middleweight title. Interesting fight. Narratives everywhere when it comes to this one. Adesanya is 23-1. He's 33 years old. He's 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. And he's coming off his last 5, I believe. He is 4-1. So he's only lost 1 fight. That was upper division to Jan Blachowicz. And I do think people get that messed up because they think, oh, Jan just won because of his size. But he mostly strike with him. And Jan, of course, the takedowns came later. But Jan did a great job of jabbing the body, counter-striking a little bit, not falling for the feints of Adesanya. That's something that could come into play this fight. And Alex Pereira is 6-1, so immense difference in experience in MMA. He is 35 years old. He's 6'4" for 80-inch reach. So that's a big difference between Adesanya compared to like Adesanya's usual opponents. Is Pereira is the same height and he has the same reach, and he's basically undefeated in the UFC. And one thing to note is Izzy and him have fought twice in kickboxing. Once by Israel lost via decision, and the second time he got TKO'd. Both very, very close fights. Izzy thought he won the first one. It was very close. And the second one, he was winning, having some good moments. And then Pereira caught him with the left hook. And that's one of Pereira's signature strikes. And that's something we're going to have to get into is he loves the left hand, the left hook to the head, left hook to the body. Right straight, knees to the body, right kick, flying knee. Those are like the tools he likes to use. And the thing is, he's just so flowy and relaxed out there, Pereira. Like, he is so accurate and precise. In Israel, He throws a bunch, like, switches stance, feints, fakes, leg kicks, body kicks, spinning strikes, shifting punches, things like that. So it's gonna be, I think, a tense fight. I don't think people are acknowledging how level of the striking is gonna be between these two. On paper, Pereira is actually a bit better than Adesanya when it comes to striking accolades. Like, Israel, of course, he has very good accolades coming to MMA, but Pereira is like another level when it comes to those things. Not saying that Pereira is going to win, because MMA, there's a big difference between kickboxing and MMA. But Pereira was like a 2-time Glory champion, and he, that's a big difference. Izzy never won a title in Glory, and then Pereira won two belts, and did it very impressively as well. Like, he's knocking guys out up a division. So Israel's going to have to watch out for that. Of course, there's factors going into this, like there's grappling, there's clinch, smaller gloves. So Israel, he did hurt Pereira in the second fight as well. So he could always knock out Pereira. Like, you never know. Izzy is a very accurate striker. Plus, you have the wrestling involved. A lot has been discussed, like, is there going to be wrestling or grappling? Because Pereira, like, if he knows the takedown's coming, he does a good job of stopping it. But there's been moments where, like, he'll overcommit to a punch or a strike, and then he'll get taken down off of it. And some people are wondering, since Izzy has had more experience grappling in MMA, like, he showed really good takedown defense, and, once in a while he'll try to, like, do some submissions. But most of the time it's just takedown defense. So some people are wondering maybe Izzy's going to try to mix it up. And then plus, like, Izzy has the striking to back up the wrestling if he needs to. But people don't know, if you're not, like, conditioned to, like, wrestle in a fight or strike in a fight, like, you don't do it normally, it is kind of awkward to go through. So I don't know if he's going to want to do that constantly. Like, the last thing I think Israel's going to do is push Alex Pereira against the fence and try to take him down there. I think if he does take him down, it's going to be quick, it's going to be fast, it's going to be like a react takedown. Like, he's not going to try to waste time and put him up against the fence. That's the last thing I think Israel's going to do. And an interesting thing is, like, so the reason why a lot of us are curious about the Pereira fight is because middleweight is not the most diverse division. Like, Robert Whittaker is the number one contender, and he is a very good grappler, but he started off as a striker. Jared Cannonier was Israel's last title defense. He is just strikes. Paulo Costa, he's shown grappling recently in his fights, but leading up to the Israel fight, he's just a striker. You have Edmund Shabazi, he was coming striker. Darren Till, striker. Yoel Romero, who fought Izzy, he's a great wrestler in the Olympics, but he's not known for mixing it up or trying to score points or trying to get top control. So he's most of the time like an explosive wrestler, but he mostly strikes most of the time. So you get all these guys who are strikers, and they all expect to go against Israel and think, oh, I'm a different level of striker, I'm going to beat this guy. But you're just playing into the way he wants you to fight. So basically, every time you just present one dimension, Israel's definitely going to win. And some people complain like how his title defenses have been very uneventful lately since the Jan Blachowicz loss. But I think it's because guys like Israel's worrying about striking. He starts opening up, and then as soon as they show a takedown, that's when he starts to like just fight behind his kicks and keep distance and things like that. So that's what I think is happening with him. But if you would think, how could you stop that mold of him fighting strikers who we know credential-wise are inferior to him? You get a guy who is better than him in the striking, right? Because Izzy, we haven't seen him really take anybody down. So who would that be, right? We get Pereira. Pereira, on paper, we've seen him in on paper, his credentials are better. And then in the fight he won, they were very close, both of those fights, but he did win. And so that's like the way you would equal the playing field if you were to build a mold to stop all like the last title defenses. That's how you stop the trend of Israel just fighting good strikers in MMA. Pereira is a great striker anywhere, like just in general. Don't even forget about MMA. He's one of the best strikers. So that's why I think a lot of us are excited for this fight. But I think there's certain problems for Pereira to get this win. I do think he's going to have his chances. Like, I do think the strikes to the body. Both of them have very good leg kicks, so I think that both of them are going to chew up their legs. I think that Izzy, his stance switching is going to play a big part. I just think that Israel, his diversity is going to play a big part in this fight. Like, he switches stance. I think that could definitely do some problems. I mean, he did it in the first fight, but in the 2 kickboxing fights, and you see how he lost. So I guess it didn't really change the result. But I do think that'll play a part. And I think the kicks will play a big part as well. Because Pereira is a very, very good kicker. But he usually just does the basic round kicks. Israel, you'll see him, like, he'll use both legs. He'll fake, and he'll set up his punches, or he'll set up a stance switch, and he'll kick the body, he'll kick the head. And then Pereira, he typically it's just usually his round kicks that get the job done. So and then plus Pereira, there is a certain level of, like, he needs the fighter to exchange with him, or to, like, kind of, like, go toe to toe a little bit with him to catch the shot. And I feel like with the octagon is immensely bigger than a ring, than a kickboxing ring. So I think that there's going to be less room for the two of them for Pereira. There's going to be a lot more room, and Pereira's going to do a lot more work to cut off the cage. Even though we'll see, the way he knocked out Izzy was actually, he never cut him off. It was Izzy attacked him first. He tried to pull out of the exchange, and then Pereira caught him with his famous left hook. So you never know. Maybe that could be a scenario that happens. And but that's my main problem for Pereira. He's gonna have to find a way to close the distance safely. However, one thing I do want to note is, so some people are going by, like, oh, Izzy, the first 2 fights were close, so that means he could win this one, right? He's gotten better. Yeah, he's gotten better at MMA. Striking, he's kind of been somewhat similar. Pereira, however, he just began when he fought Izzy, and he was nowhere near, in my opinion, the guy he is now. Like, you'll see now he has, like, a very signature footwork. He kind of bounces like a karate guy, and he didn't do that ever in the Izzy fights. Most of the time he kind of, like, plot forward. So there is a huge difference, I believe, with Pereira, his striking since the fights with Izzy. I don't think Izzy's going to be haunted by the 2 losses at all. But I also think that he may mix it up. He may just sort of keep it honest. Like, he's been talking about how, like, Pereira's come up very easily through the ranks, and that he wants to expose it. So how else would you expose it? And then Izzy's been talking about how this is MMA, this isn't kickboxing, this is a different sport. So it sounds like he's going to try to grapple in this fight, or at least mix it up. That's what I think he's going to... I think if the fight goes longer than, like, 10 minutes, he's going to try to grapple a little bit at least. So that's why I think that the champion's going to retain Israel Adesanya, because I just think he has the more wider range, so he could... His game, I feel like, is going to fluster Pereira more than Pereira. Pereira, for him to have a clean win and close the distance, he's going to have to find a way to shut down the kicking game of Adesanya. That is the biggest thing for me. That's, like, the biggest question. If he could do that, he wins the fight. But it's going to be very difficult. And plus, like, you have, you never know, because he operates at this very, very high level with his striking. And Pereira, he operates also on that level. So maybe that will make the difference. Maybe the physical equalness that they have could play a part. Like, Izzy, he does rely a lot on pulling back and leaning back, like, with his height. So maybe that's how he caught him in the second fight. So you never know. I'm leaning towards the champion. I just think that his striking alone could give Pereira some frustration, and then plus you have that it's smaller gloves. So now possibly Izzy could hurt him a little bit more. And, of course, that could mean, well, Pereira knocked him out with big. That means the shot will be even more. 100%, that's very true. But I just think that some of these things equal out a little bit. I do think Pereira, credential-wise, is a better kickboxer than him. But I think that the MMA gloves... Also, Pereira's never been 25 minutes in MMA. You have that Izzy could grapple if possible. Like, I don't think he's going to do it super well, but he has the option to do it. I just think that equals to an Adesanya win. I think that I actually believe he could get the finish. I believe he could get the finish late. I think that he could cause some frustrations, pick at the body, and then land some shots, and then Pereira just he gets fatigued from all of the difference, right? Like, if it goes longer, he's never gone past 15 minutes. So I think that all add up possibly for Adesanya. So that's the smart pick, in my opinion, is just for Adesanya. It really. Yeah. Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like what you were listening to, please subscribe to Fans Assemble. And if you can, please give us a rating. Do it for the audio world. They need you.